Let's bring in Hugh Hewitt, host of the Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network and an MSNBC political analyst. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Chanel. Good morning. I'm in California. Good to talk to you.
Well, there you go then. Good morning to you. Hugh, let me get your take. Is that really the reason Nunes, in your opinion, is attracting so much criticism because he was, quote, too transparent?
No, I think Devin Nunes is being attacked because he's a Republican by Democrats who want to create a lot of dust in the air and confuse people about Russia. Adam Schiff went to the White House yesterday, saw the same documents Devin Nunes did, and the media needs to ask Adam Schiff not whether different procedures, in his opinion, ought to have been followed, but whether he saw anything that surprised him, gave him concern, and if broadly disseminated throughout the government, as Evelyn Farkas suggested it was, whether or not he would be concerned about that. Well, Nunes made one big mistake, Chanel. He told Eli Lake, who is one of the town's preeminent national security reporters, that a whistleblower was his source. That wasn't true. That was his big mistake. But right
Hugh,
now, it's all about politics.
To be fair, you mentioned Adam Schiff. I was reading before the show here. Schiff said one thing is very clear. There was no legitimate justification for bringing that information to the White House instead of the committee. Isn't that fair? I mean, he says it was also obtained at the White House. The fact that it was obtained at the White House makes the departure a little bit more concerning. But the fact that he took it to the White House instead of the committee, that is a valid concern.
No, I really don't think so. I think Adam is a very good politician who's trying to kick up a lot of dust.
Why not take it to your folks? Why would you? Because for some people, it felt like it appeared as if he was too Trump.
You can eventually take it anywhere, but there is no set of rules that says Devin Nunes, as chairman, doesn't get to go to see the president. Adam invented those rules in his own head. He's reimagining his authority as ranking member in the House of a minority committee. And I know what the Republicans are doing. They're pushing back and they're saying, guess what, Adam? You're in the minority. We've won the last 4 elections. Nancy Pelosi took you from the majority to a 46-person minority right now, and you don't get to make the rules. So if Devin Nunes wants to take what he saw to the president, he can. But by the way, we'll show it to you, Adam. And Adam came and looked at it. Now we ought to ask Schiff. This is the key question. What did you see in those documents? Were you surprised by what you saw?
But what about just the appearance of it, Hugh? Whether something is right or wrong, or ultimately whether, you know, regardless of his intention, what about just the optics of it? And then I think a lot of people are concerned because it seems like he kind of walked back on his claim that the president was monitored. So it just, you know, obviously if people smell suspicion,
the president was not wiretapped. The president was not wiretapped, and I think we ought to be very clear about that. The Russia investigation has 3 silos. What did Russia do to us? That's the most important silo. What members of the Trump circle were wrongfully associated with Russia, and that's focused on Manafort, and as we saw in the last hour, maybe Roger Stone, maybe Michael Flynn, maybe some others. And then we have to ask what the Obama people did with information that ought to be held close. Did they spray it all over town and hope it get leaked like it got leaked with Michael Flynn?
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Per the New York Times, Nunes got the intel reports on the incidental surveillance of the Trump team with the help of at least 2 White House staffers. You were talking about that. So then what do you make about that? Does that, to you, sound like White House interference or a leak?
It sounds like White House, a very good, smart group of Obama officials laid some landmines for the incoming Trump team. I don't know, and I don't know that anyone except the FBI knows yet, whether or not anyone violated the law except the person who leaked the Michael Flynn transcript. That was a felony. We do have to find out if Evelyn Farkas was right. She wasn't in the government. She wouldn't know. She was hearing gossip and relaying gossip, and I don't think we should make too much of it. But the breadcrumb trail leads back to what did the Obama people do in order to set a time bomb on Russia for the Trump people? And that's where I go back to Adam Schiff. We should ask him, what did you see? Does it trouble you? And did you see any indication that it was spread around? And if it was spread around, would that concern you? Because he wants to focus on process, and the media wants to focus on process. And whenever they do, they're missing the bigger story, which the biggest story of all is, what can Russia do to us next, Chanel?
Well, do you
Mark
buy,
Warner, Democrat.
Do you buy any of the rumblings that, listen, you know, there are people in the previous administration who were concerned that there was information, it would be buried, or perhaps it would never come to light if they didn't take certain steps?
That's the farkest allegation, and I think if they gave it to the FBI with a pointer on it, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. If they gave it to congressional staff members and nudged them to leak it out, that's very bad. But Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia this week, said the most important thing. He thinks they found 1,000 Russian trolls creating fake news at a building site in Russia that floods our zone with fake news. The original fake news, by the way, with Orson Welles in 1938 with the War of the Worlds broadcast. We have to be looking forward about what the Russians are going to do to us next and learning about that by looking backwards at the interference, the illegal interference that they did with our election, not on who went to the White House when. There's a big story here. I'm afraid we're not focusing on it because Democrats want to try and bleed Trump a little bit. I get that. That's just politics.
But you
they
also,
want to bleed Nunes.
you don't see any threat of validity in the concerns here. Come on.
I think there's politics all around. I'm very concerned about the Russians. I've been concerned about the Russians since I worked for Richard Nixon in his retirement in 1978. They are bad guys. They are not our friends. They kill people abroad. They put Alger Hiss in the United States government in the 40s. They will do what they can do, and they will mess with us as much as they can. So I'm very concerned that we not allow American politics to obscure the lens that we ought to be looking through, which is what is Russia up to and what are they going to do to us next? Whether it's a Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or candidates 4, 8, 12 years from now, they are developing a cyber capacity that is robust and very dangerous.
Let me squeeze in one more topic here. Yesterday, Congresswoman Jackie Speer, who sits on the Intelligence Committee, as you know, offered one theory on why the Justice Department might want to give Michael Flynn immunity. Take a listen to this.
It would be granted by the Department of Justice if and only if it provided a bigger fish in terms of dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting to someone who is more critical in terms of violating the law. But we also know that—
I want to just interrupt for a moment, Congressman. You say a bigger fish. He was the national security advisor to the President of the United States. There aren't a whole lot of bigger fish out there. Clearly the President is a bigger fish.
That's right.
What do you think, Hugh, that that's a possibility, that the President is the real target here?
It's wildly speculative. I won't engage in it because while General Flynn has problems and he can ask for immunity, and lots of immunities are given to people who are under investigation for exactly the reason the Congresswoman said, I want to remain responsible. There is no predicate for believing there is any investigation into the President or anyone in the White House. But I've said many, many times the President ought to call a press conference with Comey and address with the Director of the FBI this very question. Mr. Director, is there anyone in my White House that needs to be fired because they're under active investigation? Reince Priebus told me on my radio show this week that there is no one, nothing to the Russian story, zero. But I expect Democrats to keep doing Democrat things because they keep losing governorship, Senate, House. They've got to try something different because as the Obamacare death spiral accelerates, more Democrats are getting sucked down into it.
Oh, don't do that. I'm out of time. Don't use that death spiral word because I'll have people screaming at the TV. I can't.
Oh, it's true, though. It's true.
I got to stop. Hugh Hewitt, thank you for your time this morning out there on the West Coast.